Mycotoxins are actually produced by fungi that commonly grow on some of our dietary staple foods, particularly in the developing world. So crops such as maize or corn or peanuts, for example, are commonly contaminated by these different types of fungus that produce, in turn, the toxins. So we see very high levels of exposure to these potent toxins in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, parts of Latin America. We see three main health effects, in fact. First of all, at very high levels, we see acute poisoning and even deaths from aflatoxin contamination. The second thing is these toxins are well known to cause liver cancer, particularly in people that also have chronic infection with hepatitis B virus, which is commonly occurring in the same areas that we have heavy aflatoxin contamination. And more recently, and very strikingly, has been the observation that young children that consume high amounts of aflatoxin show evidence of stunting and growth impairment.
What are the key recommendations identified in the working group report?
The first recommendation really is that we need to know a lot more about the level of exposure to these mycotoxins in the populations where they commonly occur. In fact, rather paradoxically, we have a lot more information about the levels of exposure in countries where these toxins are rare compared to those where they are common. The second level of recommendation was about what can be done to combat the problem, and more specifically, three particular interventions that would be helpful. The first is difficult to achieve, but would help, is to diversify the diet so that people are not so reliant just on the crops which have heavy levels of contamination. The second is that it is possible to sort the crop and sort out the maize kernels or the peanuts, for example, that have very high levels of contamination. And the third is we can actually improve the conditions of storage to impair the growth of the fungus and therefore the production of the toxin. These are dangerous toxins. We know there are adverse health effects. We have ways to change human exposure, but we're not applying them. So we hope that this report will be useful for decision makers, policy makers, in deciding on how to combat the aflatoxin problem in their own countries.